Welcome, everyone, back to week 5 of our Thriving in the New Normal series. This week, we have an exciting program put together because we're going to be hearing from you, the HVAC contractors, and we're going to be learning more about what people are doing to thrive in the new normal. We've got all of our panelists back, and we're excited. Before we get started with how our HVAC contractors thriving, I wanted to revisit the HVAC business cycle. And as we're doing that, I wanted to start off with a story. There's a story about a hotel in New York, and it was a very upscale hotel, and it had been built back in the 1920s. In fact, it was one of the first hotels to have an elevator put into it. And many of you that have stayed at hotels, I think you have all experienced the frustration of pushing a button and then waiting for that hotel to get to the floor. With this hotel being a hotel that had been built early on, it had a very antiquated elevator system by the time they got into the 1960s. And the elevators ran slower than many of the modern elevators that customers were used to. They started getting complaints from customers about how long they were waiting for the elevators, and they noticed that they still had the same amount of repeat business from people, so they didn't do much about it. They noted the complaints and understood that it was frustrating for people. But when they got into the 70s, they started to notice that repeat business was starting to drop off. And they still were getting the consistent complaints back from customers saying that they had to wait a long time for the elevator. And so the general manager of the hotel went to the maintenance person and started asking, what can we do in order to speed up the hotel? Can you start looking at some different options and bring those options back to me? The maintenance person went and contacted several different companies, and they came back with different ideas. One company said we could take and change up some of the control systems with the existing system, and you're probably looking at about $50,000 or $60,000 for us to do that, and we can get the elevators to go a little bit faster, but you're not going to notice much improvement because you'd have to do a complete entire rebuild in order to really make a noticeable difference. And so another company came back and said we could redo the whole entire elevator system in here, and it'll cost several $100,000 for us to go ahead and complete that project. And so the maintenance person came back with all of these numbers and these proposals for changing the elevator system out, and the general manager looked at it, and they just didn't have it in the budget. That evening, he was having dinner with one of his friends, and that friend happened to be a behavioral psychologist. And he was explaining the dilemma that he was having and the problem that he was having as far as losing repeat business, as far as customers being unhappy with the speed of the elevators. And the behavioral psychologist said, have you thought about it from a people standpoint? And he said, what do you mean? He said, well, there's a couple of different things you could do. You could distract people. So possibly you could put an arcade game at each of the landings where the elevator stops. And you could notice that people would start playing games. In fact, when the elevator did show up, if they were really getting into the game, they might even let the elevator go by and continue working on the game that they were playing on, and they would not notice that there was that much time. He said there's also this thing called vanity that people have. And have you ever considered possibly putting a mirror up? Because people will look in the mirror and they'll be absorbed in themselves, and they'll stop thinking about how long it's taking for the elevator to show up. And he said, well, what do I have to lose? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a couple of mirrors up, and we'll put a little landing and put some flowers and give some things for people to look at. And so in the 1970s, he put up all of these mirrors in the landings where the elevators stopped. And the complaints went down. And they noticed repeat business started going up. And he didn't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in upgrading the elevator system. For the remainder of this series, we're going to be looking at the HVAC business cycle through different perspectives. And the first perspective that we're going to look at is through the eyes of you, the HVAC contractor. And as we continue on with this series, we're going to be looking at these problems through different angles in different ways that we can solve all the aspects of the HVAC business cycle. If you've missed any of the previous programs, please go to the Goodman Business Toolbox or the Amana Brand Business Academy. And you'll find them in the Thriving in the New Normal section under the training tools and resources, and you'll be able to do that. But what I really want you to contemplate is which area of the HVAC business cycle would have the biggest impact on your business today. And let's start looking at how we can improve performance in that specific segment. With that being said, I am going to turn things over to Mr. Whitman, and he's going to talk about communicating and providing the appropriate solution. Tom?
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again today. Hey, Ben, before you advance the slides, I think I want to just have a conversation about some of the customers and some of the contractors I talked to. Would that be okay? Okay, great. So I had a chance to interview quite a few contractors over the last week, and my national conversations with them as well. And by the way, Ryan, thank you for reaching out in Utah for the conversation too. So I'll just go ahead and begin, and some great stories of how they've been able to manage through this in a positive way. I spoke to Ryan in Utah, and he wasn't hit as direct as the rest of the nation. About 65% of his workers are NC, and that still hasn't changed much. However, his service and maintenance has dropped about 15%. But he seems to be on target for last year. This is one of the areas that probably wasn't hit as hard as the rest of the country. However, 15 to 20% of his customers are still uneasy having strangers in their home. So they're waiting until he get the other side of it. And I asked him what advice he had for anybody, and this is great advice. He said, don't listen to the national news. Focus on listening to your state and your state directives. Our country is so big, and there's so many areas of the country, especially in rural areas, where they haven't been hit as hard, so the restrictions are a little bit looser. However, everybody is still cautious, right? So the next bit of advice is protect your employees and protect your customers. He's taking great measures to make sure that his employees are wearing masks, gloves, shoe covers, and they're distancing from the customer, taking a direct path inside the home and out. And the customers really appreciate it, as do the employees. The other challenge he's having is keeping employees from coming in to work because they're afraid, right? So you just work with it, do the best you can. Brian, thank you for the tips. That was awesome. Also spoke to some friends of mine in Oklahoma. The very first thing when this hit for them, they're a smaller organization, is they took a look at their break even, where they had to be to sustain profitability. Then they took a look at their overhead, and they were able to disperse their administrative people. They were able to get virtual phone lines put in their homes. Once they did that for their office staff, they basically dispatched their technicians from their homes, actually shared trucks. Half of their fleet they took off of insurance, and they took extreme measures to lower their overhead to get their break even manageable, so they can get through this without burning a lot of cash, and make sure that everybody was going to be able to be whole when they get on the other side of it. And it looks like it's working well. They're able to serve their customers well. They're not burning up their cash. Their company is solid, and they did apply and were approved for the payroll protection plan, which is excellent. And they should be coming out of this very, very well. Edna, Texas, there's zero cases of coronavirus at all. Business as usual, but people are still fearful for having people coming into their home. So again, set up processes and procedures that protect your people and respect your customers as you go in. They should be in great shape. And then, across the country, I have another contact in another part of Texas, close to Houston, where they've been hit pretty hard. So again, he had to take a look at his operating expense, lowered the break even, was able to get it to a threshold where they could easily sustain and maintain productivity with a skeleton staff without furloughing or laying people off. And he's very optimistic that when the market opens up, he's going to bounce and bounce hard. Now, on the other hand, here's the tale of two stories. I have a client of mine in Eastern Ohio and another friend of mine, I consider him a friend, not a client, in Pennsylvania. They know each other. The company, third generation in Pennsylvania, closed its doors, let all of his employees go, basically literally shut down his business and said, look, I'm not going to try to battle this. I'm closing doors and we're going to rebuild when we get on the other side of it. My other friend in Ohio, unique approach. Him and a couple of other ones, been working with him on this one approach pretty aggressively. Same thing, where's our break even? What can we do to reduce our expenditures every month? How do we get it to a safe place? And ran the whole program to where he was making it happen. But he was smart enough to put enough banked away for about 6 months worth of operating expense. So he's in a very, very good position right now. And he's actually been approached by a couple of smaller contractors to buy him. Since he was diligent in making sure that he was cash strong, kept it in a safe place, then he was able to take advantage of a couple of situations that helped a contractor that was in need, also helped grow the business, which was a fortunate thing. The other thing he did too is he figured out how to sell virtually through Zoom and connect with customers and actually do complete presentations online. He contacted me with that too, and we've been putting together a program for it, but it's working famously for him. So I think these type of situations is going to force innovation and different ways of doing things that we normally wouldn't do. So as you see here, we go through the business model right now. As leaders on the top part right-hand side, as leaders, our accountability is to make sure that the strategy fits the situation, okay? These are extreme situations. Status quo doesn't work. So the next step, we need to make sure that the cash flow that is going to come in is going to build, and we're not going to be reducing our cash spread. Therefore, we have to reduce break even. And that is exactly what most of these dealers did, right? Management was implementation and performance. So they implement the strategy, and then every day they're measuring results to make sure they're surpassing or at break even so they can sustain operations. And then the front line, which is next, their job is to create a great customer experience. The next step is critical though. Go ahead, Ben, for this. Go ahead 2 more times real quick. So once they perform during the day, the critical information, customer retention, and performance results, that's usually the missing piece. So if we can, customer acquisition and creating a great experience is what we do, but we also have to measure and take a thermometer to our internal customer, the company, to see where it is. So are we retaining customers, and our performance results at a level to where the financial requirements of the organization should be, okay? So once the front line goes to management, they review every day and see what they have to do to navigate through these rough waters right now. That's what most of these companies have been able to do. So I hope this is helpful. We do have a break-even model on HVAC Coaching Corner if you'd like, and be happy to help in any capacity at all. Just give me a call. So God bless, take care, catch you next time. I'll hand it off to Matthew.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. Great information. Love hearing this. I love hearing about different contractors. We're going to do kind of our own good, better, best as far as contractors are concerned, because I just want to share a couple stories and some of the trends that we're seeing out there. So the first one is Kevin Perkins in Louisiana. I would have loved to have gotten Kevin on this, but we certainly don't have the time, but his draw would have been perfect. But anyway, Polar Tech down in Louisiana, recently he just had a deal where his bid was $2,800 and the customer said, what kind of financing do you have? And unfortunately, like a lot of contractors, he didn't have any financing. So she said she didn't have the money. So later on, when he followed up with her 2 days later, he found out that she went with another contractor. He asked her how much was the bid, and she said she had no idea, but it was $79 a month. Ends up she had no idea how much she spent. She actually spent an extra $700 up to $3,500, but she didn't know. It was $79 a month. To quote Kevin, and he wanted to make sure we got these quotes, all she heard from my mouth was $2,800, and all she heard from the other guy was $79 a month. And it really affected this guy. It really affected Kevin. The one quote he certainly wanted us to know is, that was the second job I lost like that in a week, and I am not going to let that happen again. So Kevin is now offering financing through EGIA every time, and he has already sold several jobs this week using financing, using no payments. Here's a real contractor in real time that's doing that. Here's a better one. Here's a market where ownership realized they needed a better financing solution because they were only offering the free programs, no costs. They didn't see the value in having to pay the expense of having financing. They thought that was an expense that they didn't want to have. But they had actually never, ever sold any AC product above 13 CR, right? They struggled selling anything with 14, 16, 18. That was not even in their sales model. So we discussed which lenders we should put them out. We sat with them, gave them the free little consultation so that we made sure that they got their financing right. We targeted the type of loans that they were most comfortable with. And right now, they really wanted to focus on the no payment program, which is what we were talking about. So we settled on a couple of term loans, longer terms with lower payments, and 12-month no-no. And in the last 3 weeks, the dealer has sold for the first time ever 3 premium high-efficiency systems using the no payment solutions. They've enjoyed their 2 biggest financing months in March and April since they've gotten on board with EGIA and financing, and actually changed their model from thinking we have to use free programs to understanding paying that 5% dealer fee, but being able to offer a customer a 12-month no payment program is a huge solution. And my last story I want to go share with you guys is Service One. Jeff Churchill, he had to furlough quite a few of his employees. Like everybody else in this time right now, he had to put people like back on the streets because his business had dropped down. We came out with the stimulus promotions 4 weeks ago, and Jeff was like, I got to get on top of this, right? He's working with Interbank. So he put the 12-month no-no really heavily on his website. I mean, he got this no payments, no payments, no payments. He focused on the 12-month no-no. His now business in the last 4 weeks has picked up so much that he's actually been able to bring back several of his installers, right? And bringing back more employees. And now he's planning, if it continues the way it's going, he's actually going to be bringing on more staffing. And this is how, if you actually embrace this and get out of your way and get out of the mind and change your mindset and understand that financing is the solution that's going to help customers get on board, you can turn around and stop furloughing employees and bring them back on. These are 3 success stories I wanted to at least highlight to you. We have dozens of others. We'd love to work with you. So a couple things I want to point out, if you could roll to. If you go to the Goodman Toolbox or the Amana Business Academy, here's what we've done now. We have now put up a lending training solution with every single lender individually, no cost to you, that runs every single day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to be able to get on a webinar at no cost and learn about Mosaic or learn about EGIA or learn about Green Sky or find out about the Interbank. It'll deep dive into your questions. It'll be hosted by the lenders and EGIA. And what we'll do is we'll be there to answer your questions, make sure you understand the programs, make sure you understand how these things operate, answer questions, and get you set up, right? So this is going to be going all the way through May. We're going to be having 8 to 10 webinars a week on all the different lenders and the different programs at no cost to you. So you don't have to reach out to us and schedule an appointment if you don't want. You can just go to the Goodman Business Toolbox or the Amana Brand Academy, jump on, register for one of these virtual trainings, and make sure you get in as soon as possible. Again, just so you have my contact, Ben, next slide. If you have my contact, please feel free to reach out to me, Mike, or Eric. Let us do a free consultation like we did with Kevin in Louisiana, or we did with Jeff on Service One in Nebraska. Let us help you guys. Let's get you set up on the right financing, and we'll help you navigate these times. With that said, Ben, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thank you, Matthew. As we look into the Customer for Life section of the HVAC business cycle, I wanted to focus on two key things: reoccurring revenue and lifetime customer value. And we're going to be focusing on this for quite a good chunk for the rest of the series that we have. And to kind of kick that off and start talking about this concept, I wanted to throw a couple of different things out here. In talking to a lot of our territory sales managers and many dealers that are out there, and to just reiterate what Tom had talked about, we do see dealers that have been in different camps. And that's why I've brought up on the top of your screen, you'll see the Thomas Kilmann scale, which is the reaction mode to conflict. Whenever we have a huge disruption in the marketplace like we do right now, a lot of conflict comes up, and there's basically 5 different reaction modes that are outlined in the Thomas Kilmann scale that people go to. If you look at the top, high assertive, low competitiveness, or low cooperativeness, that's where you have the very high competing. I'm going to win no matter what. And so we've seen some companies that have gotten very aggressive and are getting out there, and that's the reaction that they have to this disruption in their marketplace. If you have low assertiveness and you have low cooperativeness, this is where you get the avoiding. And they're just going to avoid the whole entire situation altogether. And maybe that is closing their shop and saying, hey, I'm going to deal with this when we come out of this thing. I just can't see how I'm going to work with it. And then the last you have with a low assertiveness and high cooperativeness, you have the accommodating section of the Thomas Kilmann scale. Another way to word these might be the fight, flee, or freeze type of mentality that people are having there. And then we look on the other side where maybe you have a high assertiveness and a high cooperativeness where you get into the collaborative style. The only problem with collaborating is collaboration takes time. And so a lot of the people that have been doing that, they haven't been able to react quickly to the situation and be able to take care of the problems or challenges that you have there. And then you have your compromising. There is no right or wrong reaction mode to a situation like we're in with a disruption in the marketplace. But it is good to understand maybe where your tendencies are and where you're coming from as we look at that. And so then we also have to take a look at our customers. Our customers are doing the same things. They're in high levels of stress, and they have decisions that they have to make. And you have customers that get into 3 different types of categories. You have the explorer. Now, the explorer is the customer that everybody wants because they're the ones that find your business, they love your business, and they're the ones that are exploring new ways that they can interact and they can work with your team. And so these may be the people that are engaged with maintenance agreements with you, that are looking for the indoor air quality solutions from you, and they keep forcing your company to be innovative and adapt because they're always looking for new ways that they can interact and work with you. Then you have the vacationer. The vacationer is the one that comes and visits your company and look at you for a good or service. But when another company comes along with a better value, perceived value in their mind, they may be just as happily to move over to that other company and participate with their services or their products for a little bit. And last, you have the prisoner. And we do see there's quite a few people out there right now that maybe don't necessarily want to have somebody coming out to their business, but they have a situation where they have no heat or no cooling, depending on which area of the country you're in, and they have to have somebody come out there. They didn't necessarily want to have you come out there, and so they're kind of the prisoner person that is having you come out to their place out of necessity versus because they wanted to be there as the explorer or the vacationer. Your goal during this time is to help the vacationers become explorers and look for new ways to integrate with you, and to identify the prisoners and find out, are they a prisoner because they just don't know enough about your business, or are they a prisoner because they just really, you were the last ditch effort that they had because maybe their favorite company that they've always done business with hasn't figured out a way yet to answer the phones. And We'll continue to expound on this thought in this process throughout the rest of the series as we look at the Customer for Life segment, and we'll start getting into the customer lifetime value. We'll start taking a look at different products and tools to help the vacationer become the explorer, and how we deal with these different areas of the customer. But I do understand there's different people, different ways that people react to different situations, and being aware of the different reaction modes can help us to be able to better understand how to serve our employees, how to serve our own needs, and how to serve our customers that are out there as well. I'm going to turn it over to you, Matthew, and we'll talk about redefining yourself during this time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Esteemed colleagues, thank you, as always, for the chance to learn from you guys. I took a slightly different tack to this question here in the Northwest, primarily because Seattle, which was one of the hardest and earliest hit areas and cities in the country, is now having a very vigorous discussion about reopening. Also, as was in the news today, a company has put forth an antidote, for lack of a better word, to coronavirus that appears to be actually working. And I was really curious in talking with my friends and colleagues up here about the transition, right? There's a very active discussion going on here. What will the company look like after this is done? What have we learned, and what are we still learning going through that? So I was really interested in getting that particular perspective, right? And I think it's important. So, here's just a quick snapshot of what a few people just told me off the cuff during our conversations. Some were very common sense, right? While many of our competitors put their business on hold, we just stayed here and kept answering the phone. At some level, there were some people that grew through this simply through tenacity. Our belief is that we make our own weather. I heard so much about positive attitudes, the role that leadership is and will continue to play when this is finished. I love this third quote, and I think it's true of my business and probably most of people's businesses, which is this whole process has exposed a lot of our blind spots. And there's a variety of ways that those can be addressed, and I'll touch on a couple. But I think anybody who owns a business knows that there are things that they're really, really good at, and then they have this lengthy list of things that they know they should be working on. And for many people that I talk to, that list suddenly became front and center, like financing, Matt, or better, smarter investments in lead generation, digital platforms, virtual selling. This has made a lot of people aware that being perhaps overly transactional and slightly myopic really hurt them in lots of ways that they perhaps could have hedged against. Lots of dedication to office time and to employees, which I thought was great. Good, bad, or otherwise, I'm in the office. I didn't talk to a single owner who said they hadn't worked harder than they've ever worked to stay connected to their people, and that they were putting in more hours and spending more face time with their employees to keep that sense of unity, to keep the team galvanized. And again, that their feeling is that's going to pay real dividends when this is over. E-commerce was a hot topic, and obviously virtual anything right now is a hot topic. One person said, I went through a sales seminar 4 years ago. We were all talking about e-commerce. Probably everybody on this call was talking about e-commerce 4 years ago. And if you go back in time, it's not that long, but he said, at the time I heard what you said, and I kind of chuckled a little bit like, nah, it's not me. It's not our industry. And now, we're all on a fast track to that. Lots of regrets, right? One person who did lay off a few people said, I will never put my business in this position again. And in fact, he was looking to make some pretty radical transitions. Learn to communicate value. Jennifer will like this one. The tech geeks in our office are suddenly the new heroes. Digital native employees have suddenly found explosive relevance, and the Northwest is a pretty tech savvy place anyways. But I love the last quote, and this is the reason I left it for the last one. This has changed my company. It's changed my employees. there was, among the people I talked to, a generally pervasive sense that going through this brought the team closer together. And I know that Brigham has alluded to this in relationship to his team of Power Selling Pros. More than one contractor said, this has actually altered the DNA. This has altered the way my company will forever function as long as we stick together. And he likened it to a gang. You know, we went from being a kind of disassociated group of people to something that, you know, we are now closer to a gang, battle buddies, right? We're in this together. Thinking through all this, you know, the conclusion that I left with and what I would share with this group, none of our companies are going to look or feel or function the same when this is finished. And my conclusion was that if anybody on this call wants their business to get older, that we are going to have to get younger. In order for us to continue to grow, we're going to have to get younger in some really particular ways. My belief is that in the future, digital natives are going to be the new sales stars, people that understand how to communicate in both a push and pull format in an omni-channel manner are going to completely change the way businesses communicate with the world at large, their local markets. But also, and I've come to this realization too, is that, you know, broadcasting in a narrow manner is a tried and true solution, but unless we are learning to broadcast across major platforms on an ongoing basis, we're missing a huge opportunity to connect with people that want to find services in potentially non-traditional manners. Diversification. I had a long chat with a guy who, in order to prevent letting his employees go, went downtown, attended a commercial cleaning class, and is now becoming a certified commercial cleaning operation as well as an HVAC business, so that they can go fog hospitals and they can take care of test centers. And it was a pure, straight up survival move. But his realization was, I've built my whole business on AOR and that's it. But if the cheese moves slightly, then I'm suddenly hamstrung. Customer loyalty was a big topic. And, you know, someone said to the effect, we've been very transactional. We're going to get back to the idea of building tribes. Not a new idea. That's a Seth Godin concept. It's 10 or 15 years old. But the idea that you've got voluntarily loyal customers as opposed to customers that you bought with marketing dollars are two different perspectives. Culture comes into play. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Not my quote, Peter Drucker, but obviously a lot of owners are focusing on, you know, what are they putting into the emotional bank, so to speak, in their businesses. Fast decision-making, nimble and fast decision-making, as opposed to sit back and wait decision-making, I think is going to change a lot of managers and owners' strategies without being reckless, but getting ahead of a trend before it settles in and capitalizing on some early momentum. And then, you know, lastly, constant innovation. I think anybody listening and my panelists, my friends, all of us have, I think, probably realized at some point that innovation, constantly innovating, is no longer something that you do because you have to. You do it because it is a mandate. And unless you're constantly looking for ways to innovate your business to stay ahead of what's happening, you run the risk of putting yourself in a secondary or a tertiary position and then having to play catch up. So they were all great conversations. I'm excited to see what happens in the Northwest as we go through this. And I wish you all well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Absolutely fantastic, and I appreciate all the feedback and insights. We're gonna run through a similar kind of scenario in this next slide. We're gonna dive into the dealers that we spoke to. So we took a slightly different approach. We tried to make this really data-driven. So we did have a standardized kind of interview process, and then we had a conversation afterwards. So we took basically split the deck. We took 50% of the dealers that were attendees on the webinars. Thank you guys for attending, and thanks for your participation. And then we took equal amount of our own customers, because we wanted to be able to tell the difference between those that we know technically how they're investing, what they're investing in, and so forth, and have a comparison against the two. So that being said, first and foremost, how long they've been in business, you saw that, how the weather is. So out of all the respondents, mild and slow season was the majority of the respondents, and a handful are moving into their seasons. Next question was, what are the top issues that you're facing since COVID that you need help with the most? So in the majority of the respondents all checked kind of the same boxes. It is essentially digital marketing, figuring out how to get into the digital space, strategically understanding where they are and how to get to the next position, current customer marketing, how to leverage that database, how to be more engaged, how to build a stronger relationship. Next group was virtual sales presentations. Next, you are quick today. Good job, Ben. So next is, what technology have they already implemented? So primarily everybody is, I love everyone that took action so fast. My gosh, websites, 69% of everyone has a website in place. Not all feel that they love them or that they're contributing to the cause. Second was safety protocol letters. Those have been implemented, videos have been implemented. Moving over to QuickBooks Online was a real quick decision. I saw a lot of respondents say that they basically went through I think it was week number 2, we had the How to Work from Anywhere workbook. They took immediate action, moving their QuickBooks from offline to online accounts, getting those VoIP accounts set up, and really getting set up to be able to function from anywhere. Next was integrating Zoom and meeting software and online digital meetings. Out of everyone that responded, the frequency of new business. So 40% of them said, we're getting requests here and there, we'd like to get more. 31%, we're getting a steady volume of new requests, we got this. Very few requests was 21%, 3.1% said not getting any new requests, and 3.1% one said, too many, too much, I need to hire. We need to bring people on. How are you getting new business? Across the board, everyone is definitely focused on those existing customers and maintenance agreements, referrals from existing customers, word of mouth. The next highest now is Facebook out of all the respondents. And you guys, since we did this evaluation, we did this in the first 2 days after the session we had last week. We have now over 150 respondents, and this data has gotten even better. In fact, we're going to be publishing a case study. Facebook, website, SEO, local listings, and Google business listings tacked with their current customers is the highest volume of new business that's coming into everyone. Everyone that is saying, I am ranked on page 1 of Google, I do have a social media listing, I do have positive reviews, those are also the ones that say they have steady streams of new business. Next is, what customer challenges or requests have you faced since COVID-19? All of those who had no notifications of safety protocols on their websites and no virtual appointments on their websites also stated they had high volumes of customer cancellations. So this data is okay in its current presence, but when you tag team it together, when you start connecting the dots, you'll see trends. Those who don't have a digital presence are struggling with lead generation. Those who didn't put on the notifications for safety protocols and don't have the virtual appointments and online scheduling set up are struggling with cancellation appointments. Those who don't have no contact products and services, i.e. virtual diagnostics, no contact services, they are also having challenges if they just have to be placed on your website and your social media sites, and you can avoid some of those problems out of the gate. Other than that, those who have those protocols in place are saying normal stuff. People want tune-ups, they need maintenance, they want repairs, they want to know about those safety guidelines, they want to be able to pay online, they want to be able to sign up for a maintenance appointment online. They're getting used to delivering the virtual appointments. They want automated filter delivery. I had one yesterday that signed up for automated UV light deliveries. They don't want to go to the store. Those are all MRR. As Ben mentioned earlier, your monthly recurring revenue and your lifetime value, or LTV, these are the things that support those two hot topics, which those dealers who have a system in place, a technology in place to be able to maintain MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and LTV, understand lifetime value. They have a baseline of income that is continuing. They're not getting cancellations of maintenance agreements on recurring credit card subscriptions because people know it's going to get hot. Next, knowing companies who invest in content and SEO will be on top at the end of this pandemic. What are your plans? This was good to see. So first is we're starting content and writing SEO for the first time. That's 34%, and that is awesome. Very smart. Next is we're not investing in SEO, but they are ready to get in the game. That's another 23%. 23% said we haven't invested in content and we're not going to. Now, if you go back and look at this survey, pause for 1 second. Those who said we're not investing in SEO and content and we're not going to are also the ones who said I don't have enough leads and opportunities. There's complete connection between every action and result of that action. Next, those who are doubling down on content and SEO, they're taking over the industry for those who are tapping out, and those who are canceling pay-per-click, radio, print, TV, other direct mail in order to reallocate that to a permanent asset instead of burning and churning cash in traditional advertising. I'm going to pause for 1 second. Language-wise, advertising, burning and churning cash, where you're spending money hoping you're going to get something back that's bigger than what you spent, but at the end of the day, when you stop spending that money, you have nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. Marketing, inbound marketing, is entirely different. In fact, most of inbound marketing doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of creativity, time, and genius. Right now, we're doing inbound marketing. Brigham, how much does this cost you? Put it in the chat. Matt, how much does this cost you? Put it in the chat. Tom, how much does this cost you? Put it in the chat. That's what this is. It costs nothing to create content. Right now, you guys got to do something different. Be something different. Disruptive marketing. The businesses are going to be created out of this moment, not because they do what we've always done, but because they do something new and different. That's where we are right now. So I get all excited and everything. I'm sorry. Okay, so what are you doing with pay-per-click? We don't want it. We don't plan to start. Some are carving off a budget for it. The reality is, if you have extra cash, if you have blackjack money, you have demand going up drastically for ads, and you have cost going down, impressions going up. So is it technically a good time? I'm not even a huge believer in pay-per-click. If you were gonna start, I get it. Decreasing our budget, increasing our budget, canceling it and reallocating it to SEO. If cash flow, you need to be careful with. Right now, you guys, put your money in things that have a permanent compounding interest impact on your business, where the dollar or hour you spend today is worth something more tomorrow. This webinar will work for us for years and years and years to come, as will permanent content and assets that you create as a business owner. All right, next. Since you have more time on your hands, what are you doing now? Attending webinars, reaching out to those customer databases. I love that. Creating new promotions, getting creative. We've got clients that are now doing dryer vent cleanouts. Why? Because there's 9 people in the house and they're burning the dryers out really fast. They're unclogging drains. They're doing interesting stuff, not because it's just technical or tactical, because it's empathetic. They're seeing things in their own house have problems and going, I could probably help other people with that. So have that empathy and be creative. Allowing teams to work from home, virtual training, Facebook Lives. I'm seeing people get comfortable in their own skin on a video camera. You go out in the car every single day. There's no reason you can't turn yourself into a permanent asset just like this. Getting more reviews, safety protocols, you get my drift. What lead generation sales approaches have not, or have worked in the past but no longer work? Number 1 was Yellow Pages. Number 2 was people are thinking only about emergency instead of planned maintenance. Next, radio, direct mail, Angie's List, and anything standard, traditional advertising. How are you managing social media marketing right now? Again, the correlation between those who do not have enough leads And those who are not managing social media, they're in the bucket together. So we have internally managed, but haphazardly. They scored in the middle as far as the health of their business and leads. Need help, not managed, and other, they scored in the area that was don't have enough leads, not doing very well. Outsourced to an agency or internally managed, planned and scheduled, they're the ones that have the higher volume of leads, steady income. We're looking at staffing. All right. Are you an option on page 1 of Google? 51% said no or yes, and 48% said no. This is a direct correlation. Are you an option for the services you want to sell in the cities you want to sell it? If you're not on page 1 of Google, the answer is no. Okay, what tools have you already implemented so far from the library? I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm proud of everybody for jumping in. Every single one of the respondents has been inside our portal and downloaded the prior webinars, the COVID safety protocol letters, videos to social media, graphics, and work from home. We had 0 say that they had not downloaded any of the tools, which was great. Good job. So in a nutshell, you guys, this boils down to essentially some tactics, right? The weather's coming. The weather's gonna change regardless of all of this. So we need to just be real clear and real simple here. What do you wanna sell? AC repair, AC installation, AC replacement, AC maintenance, AC tune-up, AC financing. Where do you wanna sell it? That is the cities in which you do business. If somebody starts talking about zip codes, that means they left an advertising agency because they weren't relevant and they haven't learned digital space yet. Are you an option on page 1 of Google? You have 7 ways to get there. Do you look the best when a new prospect arrives? And is it easy to contact you any hour of the day, any time of the week, regardless of volume? Do you have the technology in place to handle 100 requests to your Facebook page and your website all at the same time with no resources or not? If you guys need help, this is the moment that you guys ask for help. That's what we're all here to do. That's what every one of these trainers is here to do. So don't just grab all the assets and the resources and take the information and try and figure it out on your own. You guys pause, find one of these trainers that can be helpful to you. Set up a strategy session. It's not a sales pitch. It's not a sales call. It's a group of people who truly want to be able to tell your success story on the next webinar. That's my version of the dealer voice. With that, my famous Brigham.
How's it going, Jennifer? Well done. Excellent information as usual, and it is going to get hot. However, you should not wait for that. All right. So let's talk about momentum for just a moment. Momentum is powerful. Once you get it going, once things get moving and your team gets moving and the homeowners get moving, guess what? Great things happen. I'll give you a quick example. I was training a couple of outbounders in a heating cooling company in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and it was super fun. They were getting sales in droves, and then they'd have these weeks where they weren't getting any sales at all. And so I started listening to their phone calls with my team, started monitoring everything, and we were realizing that the minute they get one sale, it's not just one, it's a group of sales. And then they have a dry spell for a week or two, and then they get a customer to say yes, and then it wasn't just one, it was several. And it was all about momentum. And so what I did is I said, look, you guys, here's what we need to do. We're going to have you take inbound calls for the first 2 hours of every day. Just take the inbound calls. When those inbound calls come in, guess what? That is the easiest time to sell a service agreement. Why? Because they're in that emotional angst. System isn't working. They're feeling it, right? From an emotional standpoint. And so what we want to do with those guys is give them the opportunity to work with those inbound callers, sell some service agreements, get the momentum going, and then the last 6 hours of their day, work on outbound phone calls while they have momentum. See, it's all about momentum. We got to create momentum and keep momentum going. Once you've got it, you've got to keep it. Now, it starts with you as the leader. Okay, so internal momentum. We want to control the input. Everything that we're watching, spending time on that's not urgent, that's not important, whether it be the news, whether it be dumb little games on your computer, whatever it is, ask yourself, does this help me create internal momentum, or does it not help me create internal momentum? A little bit of everything's fine, but too much of really silly things is not a good thing. So you want to make sure that you take a look at everything you're spending your time on right now and ask yourself whether it's creating internal momentum or not. Exercise, you guys, physical fitness and emotional wellness, they're connected. I know it. Now, I'm never going to teach you to do something that I don't do. I train every day. Spartan races have all been canceled. I don't care. My job, my objective is to be in the best shape I've ever been in. Okay. Why? We're at home. We're here. We got nothing else to do. And there's tons of ways to get in shape at home. All right. So get your body fit. Gratitude. This whole week, we've been asking people what they're grateful for. Why? We want to get them thinking about all the good in our lives, all the blessings that we've got. All right. It's very important. So internal momentum starts with you. You're the leader. Next, we got to have a game plan for our team. All right. So team momentum on the next page. So that right here, we've got an awesome list of what we can do with our team. We got to make sure, first of all, that they understand that momentum is not something that somebody else creates. All right. One of the things I was dealing with these outbounders that I was training was they felt like it was all on the customer to give them momentum. Not true. Not true. You control your response. And because you control your response, you control the momentum. And so you've got to realize that you create it, and you want to start beginning of the day. If you're not feeling good, if you're in a bad mood, push yourself away from the desk, walk around a little bit, do some exercises, write down everything you're grateful for, get in the right mindset, create your own momentum. All right. You control your response no matter what is occurring outside of you. Okay. So movement is life. Do not stay knocked down. Something happens, something breaks it up or breaks the momentum up or what have you. Take massive action, strategize, practice, train, just move. Don't stop moving. Let purpose drive. All right. So we have never had a better purpose than the one that we've got right now. And why is that? Well, because we have homeowners that are in a very fragile state, stuck at home. We have the opportunity to reach out to them and work with them. All right. So homeowner, home. Yes. Everybody's home. Next slide. We all know that, right? They feel alone. Our objective, our goal, our purpose, make a happy call. Let them know you are there and that they care. Now, you guys, I realize that I've talked about this before. We've had just over 200 people download our scripts now. When we have over 1,000 on this call right now. What that means is that some of you don't believe that that's going to help you create momentum. You guys, it's working for contractors right now. We're getting tons of feedback. They do not know that you are open. They don't know that you're still in business. You need to reach out to them. For those of you who are rocking it right now, you can't keep up with the calls, great. You still have, it's already been said, 30% of your customers are concerned about the technician coming in with COVID-19. What steps are you taking to keep them safe? And how are you practicing in the office so that when the customer expresses their concern, you have the ability to alleviate that concern? All on our scripts, you guys. It's all there and it's all free. So you should all be downloading them. All right. Cool. So as we get into this right here, now, Ben, if you'll just stay on this slide for a moment, we continue to add scripts. For example, we have a collections call script. Usually it is a tough time to ask for money right now. Well, we have developed a script based on the feedback we've been getting from customers, how to, in a very nice and very pleasant way, ask for payment. And you can make it sound as if you're doing them a favor. And guess what? They do have an open invoice, and you have the ability while you're on the phone with them to collect and make it all square, right? So it is a phenomenal script. We also have a voicemail script. We had customers calling in saying, hey, we keep getting voicemails from these customers, even though we've got their contact information and we even call them their cell phone numbers, and we keep getting these voicemails. What do? Well, we wrote a script. We said, here, try this out. So we have a team of coaches that are constantly talking to hundreds of dealers throughout the country. We have a team of call monitors that are listening to these calls and the COVID concerns, and we are modifying the script in real time. So if you're already working with us, we're going to share a Google Doc with you so you can get the latest and greatest of these files, but it is constantly evolving. And why do we constantly work on this? Well, because it's a momentum creator. All right. It generates momentum because we're constantly getting better to help you get better. All right. So if you have not downloaded these files, or if you've downloaded an old one, get the latest. This is the latest. You type in that number in your cell phone, right? The 385-247-3714, and then just type in files, okay? Files, it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase, just type in files and you'll get the latest and greatest. Now, I realize that there are gonna be some of you who go, wow, okay, I have these scripts, but I'm probably not gonna do anything with them. Well, we have developed a program to help you practice these things. It's called the Your People program. It is a virtual live group coaching program, and people are coming on board with this in droves, and there's several reasons for that. Number one is they need help. They need help practicing these things. The technicians need to practice them. In fact, we've had in some companies, technicians who are not busy right now come in and start fielding phone calls themselves, and whatever call they book with their existing customer list, they go out and take care of that customer. So even the technicians are getting involved here. So we're going to engage your entire team to implement these scripts. It's team building during 8 sessions. The technicians can watch it in their truck. The CSRs can watch it at home. And what's really crazy about it is that it's almost nothing. Okay, you don't pay for 30 days. I know some of you are tight on cash. Don't worry about it. Okay, no payment for 30 days. And there have been several of you who have asked, okay, well, how much is it? Well, it's $500 for 4 months after that 30 days. So it's nothing. I mean, very little margin whatsoever that's involved there. But the goal is to get momentum started with your team. So for those of you who need it, we are here for you. With that, I'd like to turn the time over to David.
Thanks a lot, Brigham. And, you know, one of the things I've learned is you got to do face masks, right? I'm going to take this off. It's kind of difficult, right? Communicating with your customer behind a mask can be a challenge on occasion, but you got to be able to do it, right? And think about how this whole environment has changed things. I mean, look at medical consultations right now. Look at the fact that telemedicine, which has actually been around a long time, it's not anything new, but it's actually becoming a whole lot more popular out of what? Out of necessity. So what if we could flip the script on this, right? What if we could change, instead of online medical consultation, we now all of a sudden are doing online HVAC consultation. Mr. Simmons out there on the call has been asking already on our texting about this whole virtual sales call, virtual service call concept. And it's a real thing. I mean, imagine that you could solve a good number of problems with your customers virtually, right? And help maintain the social distancing that we really need to do to help get on top of this whole COVID-19 thing. Well, guess what? It's not just about COVID-19. Consumers are genuinely concerned about having people in their home, whether there's a virus attached or not. They just are. People are scared to be ripped off. This is an example, actually, of a contractor's website in Atlanta, Georgia area. And actually, this guy attended a little get-together. We had a coffee with Dave on Thursday morning. And I had a very progressive Goodman territory sales manager who said, I'd like to get together with a bunch of my guys and let's just have a get together and talk about challenges that they're facing here locally in the state of Georgia, where we're both located. And so we got together, and this particular contractor was on there, and we were talking about how he's handling virtual services, right? So he's got a little video. This is his son who tells a little bit about it. you click on schedule today and you get two choices. So go ahead and click on that real quick, Ben. First choice is you can get a virtual service technician. And what's cool about this is they're getting $39 to initiate a virtual service call with a technician. And if you'll notice, this would be a simulation of the screen for their phone or their iPad. And it says, it's got a link to the little instructions that, that Tom's son talks about, the process there. And then there's a link at the bottom that says Zoom. And all they got to do is click that link and automatically connects them to a service technician. And they take them around the house. They go check the switches on the thermostat. They go see, they do what diagnostics they can do with the assistance of the consumer. Now, if they find that they need to do something, like let's say we got a bad capacitor, obviously you're not going to figure that out by just using a Zoom, but let's say it's clear that there is a technical issue where a technician needs to be there, they'll actually apply the $39 to the service call fee itself. So they still get to go out, but they have proven already to the customer that they're thinking about the consumer and trying to make it simple. They can also do a virtual sales call. So they have a virtual HVAC replacement specialist. And, you know, we've all had the question, how much is it going to cost to put in a 3-ton split gas electric system in my home, right? So here we can begin the process. That's not necessarily that you're not necessarily true that you'll be able to sell the whole thing, but you'll at least be able to get a good start. And if you just answer the call and say, no, I can't give you a price over the phone, you're dead. You're just dead, right? I watch Shark Tank a lot. And if you watch Shark Tank, there's a guy named Mr. Wonderful, right? And when Kevin sees something he doesn't like, he just says, you're dead to me, right? Well, that's what your customer is saying when you say no. And I know from Power Selling Pros training, no is not a proper answer. Don't tell them what you can't do, tell them what you can do, right? And that's what we want to do when we're talking to our consumers today. So this is some innovative ways that guys are using technology to apply to solve issues that customers are having today. And if you think about it, I mean, we can't possibly fix everything virtually, but we can get really close to getting there. And one of the things that we want to do is help you guys understand that when it gets time to go back out there and start measuring, because we're not going to get a customer to do static pressure test on their system. That ain't happening. They're probably not going to have a hygrometer where we can go in there and check the wet bulb and dry bulb temperatures coming off the equipment. They're not going to have a set of refrigerant gauges. They're not going to have any of that stuff. But we can get close to helping them understand what a valuable partner we are. So pieces to the puzzle is what we're trying to put together here. Again, want some good reading on this topic? There's a great article in this month's edition of HVACtoday.com magazine that talks about virtual service calls. And we've got guys that we talked about in the article that are all about doing virtual service calls even before this COVID-19 came out. This was published before the virus stuff hit. So going really fast because we're short on time. So Ben, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you to all of our panelists for the great information. Thank you to you, our HVAC contractors, for participating and helping us understand a little bit more what's going on from your perspective. Next week, we're going to be looking at all areas of the HVAC business cycle through the numbers. And so we'll be getting into some key performance indicators and talking about what those indicators may mean and what sort of tools and resources that we have available to be able to address that. As always, I continue to ask everybody to look at technology, embrace technology that's available to you, and continue to thank and encourage your people. We'll see everybody next week.